And one more thing, his mother said. That old highfalutin rabbi knew I wasn't Jewish too. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. I figured the new one wouldn't know. Bernstein closed his eyes and said nothing. He was trying not to drop into a dark abyss with little success. With that final outburst, his mother rallied her energy. She straightened up, gave a weak smile to Melinda, and wiped her eyes with a napkin. That's enough, she announced. Herschella, come over here and eat some cake. I cut you a big piece. It's your favorite. He looked at the floor. The carpeting seemed so strange, as though he had never seen it before. Where had the brown threads come from? They had spread through the pale white surface. He always thought the carpet was off-white. He always thought a lot of things. Lord, he thought, I may have to go through a conversion ceremony. At least he'd have company. Melinda would join him. That wasn't very comforting now. The rabbi always was running late. They sat outside his study in the plush chairs just as before. Bernstein found himself look around. The books on the shelf seemed so different. Some were in Hebrew. What an odd-looking language. He recognized a fanciful painting of the temple on the far wall, but it seemed to have been moved. Wasn't it on the eastern wall before? How strange. Everything was strange. Melinda wasn't. She was pretty than ever. Yet he had begun to notice the little hairs on her upper lip, the way her jaw seemed to growing soft jowls, even the furrowing around her eyes. Whatever illusions he had about her appearance were vanishing, being replaced by a real person. She was so familiar, and yet so different. In a moment, the study door swung opened. Rabbi Keller held it for them and then followed them into his office. He sat behind his desk, his hands clasped in front of him, and smiled at them benevolently. He had the same look when he stood on the bamah and delivered the priestly benediction. From a distance, he seemed so benevolent. Close up, the smile was harsher, more forced. Herschel, he began softly, you do understand the situation. Am I right? Yes, Bernstein conceded. He tried to disguise his anger, but it was still there. He had imagined how the conversation would proceed, but every version ended in loud recriminations. This was a conservative temple, at least, his father's concession to more modern times. In an Orthodox school, he wouldn't have even gotten an education with going through conversation. Education, Bernstein's mind shifted. What had he learned? That the beloved law had a large gap. Do not worry, the rabbi said with a nod. This can be worked out. He shifted his gaze to Melinda. Bernstein was happy not to be the focus anymore. He didn't know what to say, what to do. On the other hand, he couldn't contain himself. How can it be worked out? He blurted. We'll follow the law, the rabbi said calmly. The law is what got me into this situation, Bernstein protested. We always go back to the Torah, the rabbi reminded him. That is what gives structure to our lives and meaning to our days. There is always the law. God has a solution for every problem. The law, Bernstein snapped, half rising from his chair. The rabbi arched his eyebrow, but Bernstein didn't care. He had never challenged the rabbi before. He would never have thought about doing such a thing. There shouldn't be any law that says I'm not a Jew. I was raised in a Jewish home and followed Jewish laws. Everyone thinks of me as Jewish. I think of myself as Jewish. That's all that matters. Yes, the rabbi answered serenely. So you would think. The law is stupid, Bernstein continued, unable to contain himself. To those who do not understand it, the rabbi said, perhaps. Melinda patted Bernstein's arm. It's all right, honey, she soothed. We'll get through this. Come on, relax. He started to retort, then stopped. Now she was comforting him about religion. He closed his eyes and relished the nothingness that appeared. He leaned back in his chair and groaned. Melinda, the rabbi aided, as if nothing had happened. I did check on that area of Krakow where your grandmother lived. I've thought about visiting there, she said. My grandmother used to talk about the community so lovingly. The rabbi took a deep breath. As well she should, he said. It was a nice area until the Germans came. Many of the people in the Warsaw Ghetto came from there. The rest were sent to Dachau and Auschwitz. The awful names floated darkly around the room. My grandmother was lucky to be alive, Melinda said. Her voice, usually so calm, trembled. Do you understand what I am saying? The rabbi asked. Melinda nodded. I have two heritages, she said softly. Bernstein straightened up, trying to make sense of all the confusion around him. He heard words, but could not completely translate them. The rabbi said something in Yiddish. Melinda replied in her odd, small, weak voice. All of them were Jewish, she finally asked. The rabbi nodded. They called themselves Germans, he said. Ironically, Hitler said he wanted to gather the distant Germans to the fatherland, yet the people he sought were all Jews. Oi, Melinda murmured. She gathered herself and patted Bernstein's hand. Looks like you are the only one who has to convert, she said, hiding a wry smile. I am told it's easy. Bernstein looked at her, seeing her for the first time the same way he was seeing the study, the rabbi, the once familiar books. No, he replied correctly, honestly. It is not.